Hey guys, tonight we are journeying back more than 1,000 years to explore the surprisingly complex world of Viking hygiene. Forget the horned helmets, which they didn't wear, and the image of the unwashed barbarian. It's a quiet and simple way to support the channel. And for a bit of fun, I'd love to see you post your city or country and the local time in the comments below. It's always fascinating to see where everyone is tuning in from. Picture this instead. You are standing on a misty fjord, the sharp, clean scent of pine and salt water filling your lungs. A magnificently carved longship slices through the water nearby, its crew looking every bit the formidable warriors of legend. But lean a little closer, and you might notice their hair is intricately braided, their beards are trimmed, and their hands are, well, they're cleaner than you'd think. Honestly, given the lack of germ theory, plumbing, and pretty much every convenience you rely on, you probably wouldn't survive your first winter here. But tonight, we're going to pretend you're a natural. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you're aware of isn't a sound, but a smell. It's a thick, heavy blanket of scents. Old wood smoke, damp earth, sleeping bodies. The faint you're wrapped in a heavy wool blanket and a thick animal hide, probably from a reindeer or a bear, its fur soft against your skin. Beside you, a lump of humanity shifts and murmurs in its sleep. It could be your brother, your cousin, your spouse. Privacy is a concept that hasn't been invented yet. Welcome to the longhouse. But sharp tongue of animal musk and the lingering aroma of last night's stew, perhaps separated by simple woolen hangings or carved wooden posts. In your reality, it feels like a bit of both. Your little family unit has its spot, but the line between your space and your neighbor's is blurry at best, and often breached by a stray foot or a snoring uncle. It's a far cry from a private bedroom, but there's a strange comfort in the shared warmth, a primal sense of security in the rhythmic breathing of your kin all around you. You crack open your eyelids, and the darkness is almost absolute, broken only by the faint, pulsing orange glow from the center of the room. Your eyes sting. It's the smoke, which never quite manages to find the smoke hole in the roof, and instead prefers to hover about 3 feet off the floor, right at head level for anyone lying down. You've learned to sleep through it, mostly. You are on a wide wooden bench that runs the length of the wall. It serves as your seat by day and your bed by night. Historians still argue whether these sleeping platforms were truly communal free-for-alls, or if families had their own designated spaces. You decide it's time to face the day. There is no alarm clock, no gentle sunrise filtering through a window. The longhouse is mostly windowless to conserve heat. Your clock is the rhythm of the household, the needs of the animals, and the growing ache in your bladder. It's a shallow trench, lined with stones, and it's the source of all light and all heat. It was likely fetched from the nearby stream or well last night, and it's numbingly cold. There is a thin film of ice on the surface that you have to break with your knuckles. This is it. This is your sink. You cup your hands, scoop up the frigid water, and splash it onto your face. The shock is immediate and absolute. It chases away the last vestiges of sleep and makes your skin tingle. You rub your eyes, clearing the smoky crust from the corners. You don't have soap for this daily ritual. The lye-based stuff you use for laundry is far too harsh for skin. Instead, you might use a handful of fine sand or even some wood ash from the hearth as a mild abrasive to scrub away the grime and grease from the previous day. It's surprisingly effective. The embers from last night's fire are still glowing, a sleeping dragon waiting to be roused. Someone, probably the matriarch of the family or an early rising thrall, is already there, coaxing the flames back to life with a puff of air and a handful of dry kindling. You sit up slowly, careful not to whack your head on the low-slung rafters above. The air is cold, a stark contrast to the cocoon of warmth you just left. Your bare feet touch the packed earth floor, and a shiver runs up your spine. You pull your simple linen undertunic closer and stand, your joints cracking in protest. A few feet away, one of the family's prized milk goats, brought inside for the winter, bleats softly. At least it's not sleeping in your bed. That only happened once. Your first destination is the heart of this world, the long fire pit that runs down the central axis of the hall. Beside the fire pit sits your first tool for reclaiming your humanity this morning. A simple wooden basin filled with water. You look into the water's surface, your reflection a distorted, wavering ghost in the dim firelight. You see a face that is a product of this environment, skin weathered by wind and sun, hair a bit wild from sleep. Your morning ablutions are complete. It was a simple act, one performed by nearly everyone in the longhouse each morning. It wasn't a spa day, and there were no scented soaps or fluffy towels. But it was a ritual, a deliberate separation from the grime of sleep and a preparation for the day of work ahead. It was the first, and perhaps most important, step in the surprisingly meticulous process of Viking grooming. Now for your hands. You dip them in, rubbing them together vigorously, cleaning under your nails as best you can with a sharpened twig or a purpose-made bone scraper you keep on your person. Clean hands are important, not just for eating, but for any craft work you might undertake today, be it carving, weaving, or preparing food. A quirky but useful tidbit you've learned is to use certain types of moss, like sphagnum, which you gather and dry. It's incredibly absorbent and has mild antiseptic properties, making it a perfect disposable towel for patting your face and hands dry. You toss the used moss into the fire, where it sizzles for a moment and vanishes. Feeling slightly more awake and significantly more human, you stand up straight, breathing in the smoky air that is now beginning to mix with the smell of porridge bubbling in a cauldron over the growing fire. Your face is tingling and your hands are clean, but your hair feels like a bird has tried to build a nest in it overnight. The longhouse air, thick with smoke and moisture, doesn't do wonders for keeping it smooth. It's time to bring out the heavy artillery. You reach for a small, carved wooden box that sits on a shelf above your sleeping platform, its lid worn smooth by years of use. This is where you keep your most personal, most essential possessions. Inside, nestled on a scrap of soft wool, lies your most prized tool. It's not a weapon, not an axe or a Sikh's knife. It's your comb. In your time, this object is more valuable than almost anything else you own that I ascend to made of precious metal. It's your constant companion, your primary weapon in the daily battle against chaos and grime. Forget a mobile phone. This small, beautifully crafted item is your connection to your identity, your status, and your sense of order. You take it out and hold it in your palm. It feels solid, substantial. It's a composite comb, a small marvel of engineering. The teeth are not carved from the same single piece as the spine. Instead, they are a series of thin, individually cut plates of bone, probably from the leg bone of a cow or deer, lined up in perfect, tight formation. They are sandwiched between two long, decorated side plates of polished antler, held together by a series of small but sturdy iron rivets. The craftsmanship is obvious. The seams are nearly invisible, and the entire object has been polished to a soft, buttery sheen. This comb has a story. You remember watching your father make one like it. The painstaking process of sawing the bone plates, filing each tooth by hand, and using a small bow drill to make the holes for the rivets. A broken tooth was a minor disaster, requiring careful replacement. A lost comb was a catastrophe. This is why many people, yourself included, keep their comb in a dedicated case, another beautifully carved sheath of bone or wood that protects the delicate teeth. It's the ancient equivalent of a shock-proof phone case, and frankly, a lot more stylish. You turn it over in your hands. The antler side plates are covered in decoration. You begin, as you always do, at the tips of your long hair, working out the tangles gently. Archaeological evidence backs this up completely. Combs are one of the most common artifacts found in Viking Age graves, tucked beside the skeletons of men, women, and even children. A warrior would be buried with his sword, his shield, and his comb. A woman would be laid to rest with her brooches, her beads, and her comb. It was an intensely personal item, believed to be essential even in the afterlife. You wouldn't want to meet Odin with messy hair, after all. There is no magical detangling spray, no rinse-out conditioner. There is only patience and technique. You hold a lock of hair firmly near the roots and comb the end of it, working your way slowly upward. The fine bone teeth make a soft, rasping sound as they pass through the strands, a strangely satisfying music in the growing hum of the longhouse. You encounter a serious knot and pause, working it apart with your fingers before carefully drawing the comb through. To snap one of these precious teeth on a stubborn tangle would be unthinkable. It's a slow, methodical process, a form of morning meditation. It forces you to be present, to focus on this simple, repetitive task. It's a moment of quiet self-care in a world that is otherwise loud, demanding, and often brutal. A series of incised lines forms a neat geometric pattern, a series of interlocking triangles and squares. In the center is a classic Viking Age ring chain motif, a pattern you see on carved stones and brooches. Historians still argue whether the intricate decorations on combs were purely for aesthetic status, or if some patterns held deeper, perhaps runic or magical, significance, meant to protect the user or imbue their hair with strength. You don't know about all that. You just know it feels right in your hand, an extension of yourself. Now for the main event. This daily ritual is universal. You finish one side of your head and move to the other, a pile of combed, smooth hair growing over your shoulder. You can feel the blood returning to your scalp, a pleasant tingle. As you work, you notice you're not alone in this ritual. Across the fire, a neighbor is combing his magnificent beard, his brow furrowed in concentration. Near the door, two young girls are sitting back to back, combing each other's long, fair hair, their chatter mixing with the crackle of the fire. This is a shared, communal activity, as much a part of the morning routine as stoking the fire or milking the goats. Finally, you are done. Your hair, once a chaotic mess, now falls in a smooth, heavy curtain down your back. It's clean, detangled, and ready to be styled. You carefully wipe the comb clean of any loose hairs or dust on a piece of scrap cloth. You even use a small, pointed bone pick part of your grooming kit to clear any debris from between the teeth. You wouldn't just toss this precious tool aside. It's built to last a lifetime, not to be thrown away when a new model comes out next year. You place it reverently back in its protective case and tuck it back into your personal box. The first major step of grooming is complete. You have brought order to the chaos, at least on your own head. Now, the question is what to do with all this neatly combed hair. With your hair now a smooth, detangled canvas, the artistry can begin. A head of unkempt hair is simply not the way of things. It suggests laziness, a lack of self-respect, or worse, that you are a thrall, a slave with no time or right to personal grooming. Your hair, and for many, your beard, is a public statement. It's a billboard advertising your status, your pride, and even your allegiances. You look around the longhouse, and the variety of styles is a testament to this personal expression. You decide on a practical but proud style for the day. You are not going raiding, so the aggressive, intimidating styles can wait. You're not attending a feast, so the most elaborate celebratory braids aren't necessary. Today calls for something that keeps your hair out of your face while you work, but still looks sharp. You begin by parting your hair. There is no perfect center or side part dictated by fashion. You part it where it falls naturally, or in a way that suits your chosen style. Today, a simple part down the middle will do. You gather the hair from one side of your head and begin to braid. 3 strands over and under, a rhythm your fingers know by heart. You pull the strands tight with each pass, creating a neat, firm plait it will hold throughout the day. This isn't the flimsy, loose braid or romantic fantasy. It's a functional piece of engineering designed to withstand wind, work, and the occasional scuffle. You finish the first braid, letting it hang over your shoulder, and repeat the process on the other side. The symmetry is pleasing. You might leave it at this, 2 simple braids, or you could take it a step further. You take both braids and coil them at the nape of your neck, tucking the ends in to create a secure, elegant bun. You secure it not with an elastic tie, a magical device from a future you can't imagine, but with a long, sharp pin made of polished bone or perhaps bronze, its head decorated with a small, carved animal or a simple ring. This is just one option. If you were a man, particularly a warrior, your options are even more varied and declarative. You might shave the back of your head entirely, leaving a long, thick fall of hair at the front and on top. While no direct recipes survive, it's highly plausible that they used animal fats, beeswax, or plant-based oils like linseed or bog myrtle oil to tame and shape their facial hair. You've certainly found that a tiny smear of tallow or beeswax helps keep the stray hairs in place and gives your braids a healthy sheen. It's a trick passed down, a piece of folk knowledge. You apply a little now, warming it between your fingers and smoothing it down your own braids, taming the flyaways. It smells faintly of beeswax and smoke, a not unpleasant combination. This dramatic style, sometimes called a Dane's cut, is mentioned in historical texts. It was practical for battle, keeping hair out of your eyes and preventing an enemy from grabbing it from behind, while still allowing for a magnificent flowing mane at the front to be braided and displayed. Some men wove fine bronze or silver wires into their braids for a bit of flash, the metal catching the firelight. And then there is the beard. Oh, the beard. It is a symbol of masculinity and honor. A man without a beard is a boy, or an object of suspicion. An insult to a man's beard is a fighting matter. Like the hair on your head, it must be cared for. After you comb it, meticulously remembering your neighbor from earlier, lost in his own beard-combing meditation, you must decide how to style it. Some prefer a full, flowing beard, a sign of wisdom and age. Others trim it, shaping it to accentuate their jawline. Many, especially those of a warrior persuasion, will braid it. A single, thick braid down the chin, perhaps forked into 2, or even multiple small, tight braids. Sometimes, small metal beads or rings are clamped onto the end of these braids, adding a bit of weight and a jingle of martial authority. Historians still argue whether the Vikings used some form of beard oil or wax. One quirky and rather specific grooming trend you see around you is what is known today as the Ringerike style or Mammon style influence, not just on art, but on appearance. Men would sometimes trim their mustaches with incredible precision, often allowing them to grow long boys, often have their hair cut shorter, but it is always kept neat. A child with matted, beardy hair reflects poorly on the entire family. It's a matter of household pride, and hang down past the corners of their mouths while keeping the rest of their beard neatly plaited or trimmed. It created a very distinct, almost stylized look, a clear sign of someone who paid close attention to the details of their appearance. The children, too, wear their hair with care. Young girls have their long hair in simple braids to keep it from becoming a tangled mess while they play and work. You give your coiled braids a final pat. They feel secure. Your hair is controlled, managed, and styled. It reflects who you are, a respectable, self-aware individual. Looking at your reflection in a polished piece of metal you keep for this purpose, you see not a wild barbarian, but a person whose appearance is a conscious choice. From the elaborate braids of a jarl's wife, interwoven with colorful ribbons, to the stark, shorn nape and long fringe of a raider, hair was the ultimate accessory. It was a language understood by all, speaking volumes without a single word. And keeping it in order began every single morning, right after you washed your face and combed it through with that indispensable tool you hold so dear. The foundation is set, and now you can consider the finer details of your daily presentation. Your hair is braided, your face is clean, but the morning ritual of personal upkeep is not quite complete. You reach again for that personal wooden box, the one where you keep your comb. Tucked beside it are several other small, intriguing objects. It is usually contained in a small leather pouch or a decorated metal canister that can be hung from your belt or a brooch. A complete set, especially one made of bronze or silver, is a significant status symbol. But even a simple set made of bone and iron is a necessity. You tip the contents out onto a piece of clean cloth. These aren't communal property like the wash basin or the cauldron over the fire. They are likely made of bronze or iron, formed from a single strip of metal bent in half, the ends flattened and precisely aligned. You use them for all sorts of small, fussy tasks. Plucking a stray eyebrow hair that threatens to disrupt the bold, natural line of your brow. Removing a stubborn splinter you picked up yesterday while chopping wood, a task that is as much about hygiene as it is about comfort, since an infected splinter can be a serious danger. A splinter festering under the skin is not a good look, nor is it a good feeling. Sometimes you even use them to pull out an annoyingly coarse hair from a mole, a tiny act of personal refinement. These are yours and yours alone. Together, they form your personal grooming kit, a portable collection of tools that speaks volumes about your dedication to cleanliness and detail. It's the Viking Age equivalent of a toiletry bag, and its contents are surprisingly sophisticated. You often carry this kit with you, especially when traveling. The first and most obvious item, besides the comb you've already used, is a small pair of tweezers. Next to the tweezers lies a small, delicate, spoon-like object. It's an ear spoon or ear scoop, made of bone, antler, or metal. It's exactly what it sounds like, a tiny, shallow scoop on the end of a long, thin handle used for carefully cleaning wax from your ears. You use it to scrape the dirt and grime from under your fingernails. Your hands are your primary tools for almost everything you do, and they get dirty. Keeping your nails clean isn't just about appearance. It's a practical way to prevent grit from getting into your food or into a cut. You might trim your nails by carefully cutting them with your personal seeks, your all-purpose knife, but the finer work of cleaning is left to this dedicated tool. In a world without cotton swabs, this was the go-to tool for the job. It's a slightly unnerving thought for modern sensibilities, poking around in your ear canal with a pointed metal object, but for you, it's a normal part of hygiene. A popular design features a loop at the other end, so it can be strung together with your other tools. A mainstream historical fact is that these grooming kits have been found in graves across the Viking world, from Scandinavia to the British Isles and Russia. They are often found strung together on a metal ring, a perfectly preserved chatelaine of personal care, looking as if their owner just set them down for a moment. Then you have the nail cleaner. This is a small, pointed, and sometimes slightly curved tool, also of bone or metal. Historians still argue whether the Vikings practiced any form of decorative nail care. While there is no definitive evidence of nail polish, some sagas and poems contain oblique references to well-kept hands, which could imply more than just cleanliness. Perhaps they were buffed with a piece of soft leather to a shine, or maybe certain plant dyes were used for temporary staining. For now, you are content with them being clean and uniformly trimmed. A quirky and perhaps surprising inclusion in some of the more elaborate kits found by archaeologists is a tool that looks like a tiny, ornate rod. It's often identified as a cosmetic stick, or perhaps even a toothpick. They might seem minor, but they represent a profound concept. The idea that the body is something to be tended to, curated, and kept in order down to the smallest detail. It's a rejection of the idea that one must simply endure dirt and discomfort. These tools empower you to exert control over your own body, to present yourself to the world as a person of care and substance. Oral hygiene was a concern, and after a breakfast of coarse oat porridge and tough dried meat, having something to dislodge a stubborn bit of fiber from between your teeth is a small but significant luxury. Not a safety razor, of course, but a small foldable iron razor with a handle of wood or bone. Shaving was not uncommon. While beards were a mark of manhood, a neatened neckline or a smoothly shaven cheek was a sign of meticulous grooming. Shaving with this tool is an art. It requires a steady hand, a bit of water, and a very sharp blade. A slip-up results in a nasty cut, but a successful shave leaves the skin smooth and clean, a stark and stylish contrast to a full beard or a long mustache. You run your tongue over your teeth, a subconscious check for any remnants of your morning meal. It's a testament to the fact that even in a harsh and demanding world, people found the time and developed the tools to care for themselves with a surprising degree of precision. It's not about vanity, not really. It's about dignity. And with these small rituals complete, you are ready to face the world, feeling put together, from your braided hair right down to your clean fingernails. You gather the small tools, the tweezers, the ear spoon, the nail cleaner, and admire them for a moment. If you are a man, your kit might also contain a razor. You carefully place each tool back into its pouch. This small collection of implements is a microcosm of Viking hygiene, practical, detailed, and deeply personal. Your hair is styled, your personal grooming tools are packed away, and you feel ready for the day. But there's one more layer to consider: your skin. It's the largest organ of your body, and the one most exposed to the relentless northern elements. The sun, though often weak, can burn you, especially when reflected off snow or water. The wind is a constant companion, chapping your lips and cheeks. And the cold is a persistent threat, drying out your skin until it cracks. Tending to your skin is not an indulgence. It's a necessary act of maintenance. You don't have a medicine cabinet filled with moisturizers, sunscreens, and toners. Your solutions are derived from the world around you, a combination of folk wisdom and available resources. For chapped lips and dry skin, the most common remedy is animal fat. Tallow, rendered from sheep or cattle fat, is a staple. It's not glamorous, and it probably carries the faint, savory scent of its origin, but it's an effective emollient. You keep a small pot of it, perhaps mixed with beeswax, to make it harder and more pleasant to apply. You rub a small amount onto your knuckles, which are already feeling dry from the cold morning air, and a little on your lips. It forms a protective barrier against the biting wind. Sometimes, for a more pleasant scent, you might infuse the fat with fragrant herbs or flowers. You could warm the tallow with dried lavender, meadowsweet, or yarrow, letting the fragrant oils seep into the fat before straining it. This is a small luxury, but one that makes the daily routine of moisturizing a little more pleasant. It's your version of scented lotion, a faint, personal aroma that follows you through the day, a subtle hint of summer flowers in the dead of winter. It's a far cry from that overpowering smell of old smoke and damp wool in the long house-dot sun. Protection is a more complicated matter. While a healthy tan isn't a concept you'd understand, sunburn is a painful reality. There's no SPF 50, but you know that certain substances can help. A thick layer of soot mixed with fat could physically block the sun, though it's a messy and rather dramatic look, perhaps best reserved for warriors seeking to intimidate their foes. Some herbal pastes might have offered mild protection, but their effectiveness would have been minimal. The most practical solution is physical cover. A hat, a hood, or simply staying in the shade during the brightest parts of the day. Now we arrive at a more controversial topic, cosmetics. While your daily routine is focused on cleanliness and protection, there are occasions that call for enhancement. The most notable and widely discussed cosmetic is kohl. This is a dark powder, typically made from ground antimony or lead sulfide, galena, soot, or other minerals. You mix it into a paste with a bit of water or fat and apply it with a small, pointed stick, that potential cosmetic stick from your grooming kit. And it wasn't just for women. A famous first-hand account from an Arab traveler, Ibrahim ibn Yaqub, who visited the Viking trading town of Hidibi in the 10th century, noted that both men and women wore it. He wrote that they had an artificial makeup for the eyes, and that when they use it, their beauty never fades. On the contrary, it increases in both men and women. You decide to try it. You take a tiny amount of the dark powder and carefully line your eyes. The effect is immediate and striking. It makes your eyes appear larger and more defined, and it reduces the sun's glare, much like the eye black used by modern athletes. The look is bold, intense. It frames your gaze, making you look more formidable, more mysterious. It's a bit of ancient glamour, a link to distant, exotic lands like the Middle East, from where the practice, and perhaps the kohl itself, may have been imported via extensive trade routes. It's a very public statement, a sign that you are worldly and perhaps a little dangerous. Historians still argue about the prevalence and meaning of this practice. Was it a daily routine for everyone, as Ibn Yaqub's account seems to suggest? Or was it reserved for specific social classes? Or for special occasions like feasts and religious rituals? The archaeological evidence is sparse, as traces of makeup rarely survive 1,000 years in the soil. Yet the written accounts are tantalizing. Some scholars suggest the lead-based kohl even had medicinal benefits, its properties helping to prevent eye infections, a common affliction in the smoky, dusty environment. This seems counterintuitive to us now, knowing that lead is a potent neurotoxin, but they wouldn't have known that. A little lead poisoning is a small price to pay for stunning eyes and no pink eye. That's a joke, of course, but it highlights the different risk-reward calculations of the time. Beyond kohl, other forms of cosmetic enhancement were likely used. A quirky fringe tidbit from saga literature mentions the use of certain plant juices to add color to the cheeks and lips. The juice from berries like rowan berries or bilberries could provide a temporary red stain, a subtle blush of health and vitality. Similarly, some plants like woad were famously used for blue dye on textiles, and it's not a huge leap to imagine it being used on skin for ritual purposes. Although the image of blue-painted Viking warriors is more a fantasy inspired by Celtic traditions than a confirmed Viking practice, you examine your reflection again in your polished metal mirror. Your skin is protected from the elements, and your eyes are now darkly lined, adding a touch of drama to your appearance. You have moved from simple cleaning and grooming into the realm of adornment. It's another layer of control, another way to craft the image you present to your community, whether for protection, beauty, or intimidation. Altering your skin and face was a deliberate choice. You are not just a product of your environment. You are actively shaping how you appear within it, using the materials it provides to create a look that is uniquely and powerfully Viking. Your daily grooming rituals, the face washing, the combing, the skincare, are the small, consistent beats that structure your day. They are the maintenance that keeps you feeling human. But once a week, these small rituals culminate in a much larger, more significant event. This is the day the entire community, or at least your entire household, engages in a thorough, top-to-bottom cleaning. In the Old Norse language, Saturday is Laugardögur, This isn't a coincidence. It translates directly to washing day or bathing day. This is a deeply ingrained cultural tradition, the Viking equivalent of the big weekly bath. The anticipation for Lagerdager builds throughout the week. By Friday, your linen undertunic feels stiff with sweat and grime. The scent of stale smoke seems permanently embedded in your hair and skin. You feel a layer of dirt that a simple cold water splash in the morning can't quite conquer. The promise of a full body wash, of immersing yourself in hot water and steam, is a genuine luxury you look forward to. It's a social event, a reset button for the body and spirit, and a clear demonstration that you are part of a clean and ordered society. Preparations for Lagerdager begin early. It's a labor-intensive process. Large wooden tubs or barrels must be filled with water, a task that involves many trips to the nearest stream or well with heavy wooden buckets yoked across your shoulders. If it's winter, a hole must be chopped in the ice first. Meanwhile, the fire in the longhouse, or a dedicated outdoor fire pit, is built up to a roaring intensity. Fist-sized stones are placed directly into the heart of the fire. These are your heating elements. There is no complex plumbing system, no hot water heater. There is only fire and stone. While the stones heat up, you might help prepare the soap. As you know from your morning wash, the harsh lye-based soap used for laundry is too caustic for regular use on skin and hair. For bathing, a gentler, though still very different, approach is needed. One common method involves using a mixture of wood ash and animal fat to create a softer soap. Another involves specific plants. Soapwort, for instance, is a plant whose roots and leaves, when agitated in water, produce a gentle, lathery substance called saponin. You might have a bundle of dried soapwort ready for just this occasion. You crumble it into a small bucket of warm water, swishing it around till a mild foam appears. It smells earthy and green once the stones in the fire are glowing red hot. The real magic begins. Using long wooden tongs, you and your family members carefully lift the scorching stones from the flames and, with a great hiss and a cloud of steam, drop them directly into the barrels of cold water. The water temperature rises dramatically. More stones are added until the bathwater is steaming and delightfully, almost scaldingly, hot. This is a moment of minor peril and great satisfaction. A misplaced step or a dropped stone could be disastrous. But the reward is a tub of glorious hot water. Now, it's time to bathe. The order of bathing is often determined by status. The head of the household, the Jarl or Carl, and his wife would likely go first, getting the cleanest, hottest water. The children and lower status members of the household, and finally the thralls would follow, often using the same water, perhaps with a few more hot stones thrown in to keep the temperature up. It's a communal affair, not a private spa moment. You might be sharing a large tub with your siblings or cousins, a small space of the bath area filled with steam, chatter, and the sounds of splashing. You strip off your grimy clothes and finally submerge yourself in the hot water. The feeling is pure bliss. The heat soaks into your tired muscles, and the grime of the week seems to simply melt away. You use your soapwort lather or soft ash soap to scrub your body. For your hair, this is the main event. A weekly deep clean. You work the lather through your long hair, scrubbing your scalp vigorously. A mainstream historical fact is that the Vikings' reputation for cleanliness was noted by their contemporaries. The English chronicler John of Wallingford complained in the 11th century that the Danish men who had settled in England were overly concerned with their appearance, combing their hair daily, bathing every Saturday, and changing their clothes frequently, which made them dangerously popular with English noblewomen. They weren't just clean. They were clean by comparison, setting a standard their Anglo-Saxon neighbors apparently struggled to meet. While you soak, You might use a bundle of soft birch twigs, called a vida in the related Finnish tradition, to gently switch your skin. It sounds odd, but this practice stimulates blood circulation and opens the pores, enhancing the cleaning process. The fresh, woodsy scent of the birch leaves fills the steamy air. Historians still argue about where exactly these baths took place. Some larger farms may have had dedicated outbuildings, small huts specifically for bathing and sweating prototypical saunas. In other cases, the bathing would happen right in the longhouse, in a corner cleared for the purpose, the steam adding to the already thick atmosphere. Or, in the summer, it might be an open-air affair down by the lake, the hot tubs set up on. The shore for a bracing plunge into the cold water afterward. A quirky but practical tidbit involves the leftover bathwater. This gray, soupy, ash-filled water wouldn't just be thrown out. It was a valuable resource. Its alkaline properties made it an excellent cleaning agent. It might be used to scrub the wooden floors and benches of the longhouse, or saved for the initial soaking of the next batch of laundry. Nothing is wasted. Finally, clean and pink-skinned from the heat, you emerge from the tub. You dry yourself with a piece of rough linen or wool, the texture exfoliating your skin. You feel reborn. Your hair is soft and smells of soapwork and wood smoke. Your skin is clean and tingling. You put on a fresh set of clothes, probably the only other set you own, which have been carefully stored away for this moment. The feeling of clean linen against clean skin is a simple but profound pleasure. Lagerdagur is complete. You are clean, refreshed, and ready for the week ahead, having participated in a ritual that bound your community together and set you apart from the unwashed masses. Your weekly bath in the wooden tub is a fantastic reset, a way to wash away the accumulated grime of labor and life. But sometimes you crave something more. You need a deeper, more intense kind of clean, a heat that purges not just the dirt from your pores, but the weariness from your bones. For this, you go to the bathhouse. Not every farmstead has one, but they are common enough, especially in wealthier settlements or as a communal feature in a village. It's a small, windowless hut, often built partially into the earth for insulation, with a large pile of stones, the kaiwas, at its heart. This is the Viking Age sauna. Stepping inside is like entering another world. The air is thick, almost solid, with a heavy, wet heat that immediately coats your skin. It's dark, the only light filtering in when the heavy wooden door opens and closes. In the center of the room, the great pile of stones over a fire pit radiates an intense, dry heat. This is the source of the bathhouse's power. You find a spot on one of the simple wooden benches that line the walls, tiered like stadium seating. The higher you sit, the more intense the heat becomes. You start on a lower bench, allowing your body to acclimate. This is not a solitary experience. The bathhouse is a social hub. You are joined by your neighbors and kin, their bodies slick with sweat in the dim light. All status is, for a moment, left outside with your clothes. In the enveloping darkness and heat, a jarl sweats next to a Yol. Carl, their conversations hushed and intimate. It's a place for gossip, for business deals, for telling stories. The steam has a way of loosening tongues as well as muscles. You listen to the low murmur of voices, the drip of sweat from the ceiling, and the crackle of the unseen fire. You're ready. Someone takes a wooden bucket of water and, with a practiced flick of the wrist, throws it onto the hot stones. The effect is instantaneous and violent. A massive cloud of steam, the lily, erupts from the stones with a deafening hiss, engulfing the room in a wave of searing moisture. The temperature spikes, and the air becomes almost unbreathable for a moment. You take short, careful breaths, feeling the heat penetrate deep into your lungs. Sweat pours from your body in rivers. This is the point. The intense sweating is believed to draw out impurities, sickness, and even evil spirits. You might once again use a vita, that bundle of leafy birch twigs, which has been soaking in a bucket of water. You and a friend might take turns, lightly, flogging each other's backs with the twigs. It sounds like a strange form of punishment, but the sensation is incredibly invigorating. The leaves stick to your skin, then pull away, leaving a tingle in their wake. It gets the blood flowing and fills the air with the intoxicating, clean scent of birch. This practice, a core element of sauna culture, is a perfect example of using the natural world for therapeutic purposes. Historians still argue about the precise role of these bathhouses in Viking society beyond simple hygiene. Were they purely functional, or did they hold deep ritual significance? Many sagas suggest the latter. Bathhouses were seen as liminal spaces, places between the worlds, where supernatural events could occur. They were associated with birth, healing, and death. Women often gave birth in the sterile, warm environment of the bathhouse. The sick were brought here to be healed by the purifying steam, and it was a place to prepare the dead, their bodies, washed one final time before being sent on their journey to the afterlife. So, as you sit sweating in the dark, you're aware that you are in a place of profound life transitions. It lends a certain gravity to the experience, a quirky and slightly intimidating fact is that bathhouses were sometimes used for settling disputes. The intense, enclosed environment was a perfect place for a holmgang, or duel, to be fought to a limited degree. The heat would quickly exhaust the combatants, often leading to a resolution without serious bloodshed. It's the ultimate let's cool off strategy, except you're actually heating up. Imagine trying to argue your case while sweat is stinging your eyes and the guy you're arguing with is holding an axe. It probably speeds up negotiations after you've sweated until you feel you can't sweat anymore. It's time for the shock. You push open the heavy door and stumble out into the biting cold air. The contrast is dizzying. Your skin, superheated and sensitive, tingles all over. If it's winter, you might roll directly in a snowbank, the icy crystals a shocking butt. Welcome relief. If it's summer, you run down the short path to the lake or fjord and plunge into the frigid water. The thermal shock is breathtaking, literally. For a moment, your heart seems to stop, and then it begins to pound with renewed vigor. You feel intensely, vividly alive. You might repeat this cycle several times, heating up in the bathhouse, cooling, down in the snow or water, until your body feels completely purged and renewed. When you're finally done, you wash yourself down with cool water and the same gentle soaps you use on lagerdager. You dry off and put on your clean clothes, your body humming with energy. The experience is both exhausting and exhilarating. You walk back towards the longhouse feeling lighter, cleaner, on a level that a simple wash can't achieve. You've participated in a powerful social and physical ritual. The bathhouse was more than just a place to get clean. It was a community center, a doctor's office, a church, and even a courthouse, all wrapped in a blanket of steam. It was a cornerstone of a culture that understood the deep connection between the body, the community, and the spirit. And right now, all you know is that you've never felt cleaner in your entire life. Feeling utterly cleansed from your time in the bathhouse, you return to the longhouse and join your family for the evening meal. You chew on a piece of tough, twice-baked bread and a chunk of salted fish. The food is hearty, but it requires serious effort from your jaw. This brings your attention to another, often overlooked, aspect of your personal hygiene, your mouth. In a world without modern dentistry, the health of your teeth and gums is a matter of daily comfort, social standing, and ultimately, survival. A bad tooth could, quite literally, kill you. You run your tongue over your teeth. They feel robust. The diet you eat is a major factor. It's coarse and abrasive. The stone ground flour in your bread contains tiny particles of grit from the millstone, which act as a natural, if aggressive, polishing agent. You eat a lot of tough dried meats, fibrous vegetables, and very little sugar. The refined sugar that plagues modern teeth is virtually unknown to you. Honey is a rare and precious treat, not a daily ingredient. As a result, a mainstream historical fact is that Vikings generally suffered from far fewer cavities than modern people. Archaeological studies of Viking skulls consistently show teeth that are heavily worn down, sometimes almost to the gum line. In older individuals, but with a surprisingly low incidence of dental caries, or cavities, your teeth are being scrubbed clean by the very food you eat. However, this doesn't mean your oral health is perfect. The same abrasive diet that prevents cavities also causes extreme wear and tear. It grinds down the enamel over the years, leading to other problems like abscesses and tooth loss, especially later in life. You know several older people in your community who are missing most of their teeth, forced to subsist on soft porridge and soups. After the meal, you might address the feeling of food stuck in your teeth. You don't have a toothbrush or minty. Floss. Instead, you might use one of the tools from your personal grooming kit, that small, pointed pick of bone or bronze you use as a toothpick. You carefully work it between your teeth, dislodging any stubborn bits of fish or bread fiber. This is a common practice, a simple and effective way to keep your teeth clean. Some people chew on specific types of twigs. A frayed stick from a tree with antiseptic properties, like birch or willow, can act as a primitive toothbrush, a practice seen in many cultures throughout history. You chew the end of the twig until the fibers separate, creating a small brush you can use to scrub the surface of your teeth. The taste is bitter and green, but it leaves your mouth feeling fresher. Then there is the matter of your breath. Without toothpaste and mouthwash, you rely on nature's fresheners. Chewing on certain herbs, like parsley, mint, if you can grow or trade for it, or the seeds of caraway or fennel, is a common way to combat bad breath. These don't just mask the odor. Some have antibacterial properties that can help improve the overall health of your mouth. Now for one of the most fascinating and mysterious aspects of Viking oral hygiene. As you smile at a joke told across the fire, you flash a feature that is both intimidating and a mark of high status: your filed teeth. This is a real and startling archaeological discovery. On the island of Gotland in Sweden, and in some other Viking-era sites, numerous skulls of men have been found with deep, horizontal grooves intentionally filed into their front teeth. This wasn't a result of wear and tear. These are precise, deliberate modifications. Historians still argue intensely about the purpose of this practice. What did these dental modifications signify? One theory is that they were marks of a specific social group, perhaps a closed society of elite warriors or a particular class of merchants. To have this done would have required immense bravery and a skilled practitioner, making it an exclusive and costly procedure. Imagine the process, sitting perfectly still while someone takes a small, sharp metal file and painstakingly scrapes grooves into your front teeth with no anesthetic. The pain would have been excruciating. Another theory suggests it was purely for intimidation. Imagine facing a warrior in battle who grins at you, revealing a set of terrifyingly grooved teeth. It would be an unforgettable and deeply unsettling sight. A third theory proposes that the grooves were filled with colored pigments, like red resin or black charcoal, to make them even more dramatic. You look at your own filed incisors, 2 perfect horizontal lines on each, with a sense of pride. They mark you as someone not to be trifled with, a member of a select brotherhood. This quirky and extreme tidbit of body modification stands in stark contrast to the otherwise practical nature of Viking hygiene. It's not about cleanliness or health. It's about identity, belonging, and psychological impact. It shows that they were willing to endure significant pain for the sake of appearance and status, a concept that is certainly not alien to the modern world of cosmetic surgery and tattoos. You finish your simple oral care routine. Your teeth are free of food, your breath is fresher from the herbs you chewed, and your filed teeth are a silent testament to your identity. Your mouth, like the rest of your body, is subject to the rigors of your environment, but you have your own methods, from the passive cleaning of a coarse diet to the extreme and deliberate act of dental filing to manage it. It's another piece of the complex puzzle of your identity, where health, status, and appearance are all intertwined. The day is drawing to a close, and the hearty meal sits well in your stomach. But this brings up an inevitable and delicate question, one that modern life has made almost invisible with the magic of indoor plumbing. After eating and drinking, nature will eventually call. Where do you go? How do you manage human waste in a world without sewers, septic tanks, or even a simple flushing toilet? The answer is a mix of practicality, communal effort, and a surprising degree of organization. It's not a glamorous topic, but it's a fundamental aspect of hygiene and health, not your first and most immediate option, especially for a quick trip. In the middle of the night, or on a freezing winter morning, is the chamber pot. This is a simple vessel of pottery, or sometimes wood, kept under your sleeping bench. It's convenient, private, in a manner of speaking, and saves you a trip out into the cold and dark. In the morning, however, it becomes someone's chore likely, a child's or a thrall's, to empty the contents of all the household's chamber pots in a designated spot, well away from the longhouse and the water source. This is a non-negotiable rule of basic sanitation. Contaminating your well, or the stream you drink from, is a fast track to widespread illness, and everyone understands this on a practical level, even without knowing the science behind it. For a more substantial need, you head outside. You don't just wander into the woods and squat behind the nearest tree, though that certainly happens when traveling or raiding. At home, within the organized structure of your farmstead or village, there is a dedicated place for this, the latrine. This is a small, purpose-built outhouse, often called a salerni or garhus, literally yard house. It's a simple structure, a small wooden hut that offers shelter from the wind and rain and a modicum of privacy. You pull on your shoes and a cloak, then step out of the longhouse into the crisp night air. The latrine is situated a respectable distance from the main dwelling and, crucially, downhill from the well. You walk the familiar path to the small hut. Inside, it's rudimentary but effective. It consists of a wooden plank with one or more holes cut into it, positioned over a deep pit dug into the ground. It's a classic pit toilet, a design that has served humanity for millennia. It's not luxurious, but it's a vast improvement. Over chaos. As you sit there, you might contemplate the social nature of even this most private act. Some latrines were built with multiple seats, suggesting they could be a strangely communal affair. It's a slightly bizarre image, having a quiet chat with your neighbor in the privy, but it speaks to a different concept of personal space. A mainstream historical fact, discovered in the Viking-era excavations in York, known then as Jorvik, is the excellent preservation of these latrines. Archaeologists found not just the structures themselves, but their contents, a treasure trove of information about the Viking diet, health, and environment. Analysis of the preserved waste, or coprolites, has revealed everything from the types of food they ate, bread, meat, fish, berries, to the presence of intestinal parasites, giving us a very intimate window into their daily lives. What do you use for toilet paper? You certainly don't have soft quilted rolls. Your options are natural and readily available. The most common choice is moss. You remember seeing clumps of soft, absorbent sphagnum moss gathered and left in a basket in the corner of the latrine. It's soft, plentiful, and works remarkably well. In a pinch, a handful of grass, leaves, or even a smooth stone would do the job. Some archaeological finds have included scraps of old, worn-out wool fabric in these pits, suggesting that bits of rag were also used and discarded. Historians still argue about the specifics of waste management beyond the simple pit. In more densely populated trading towns like Hidibi or Burka, did these pits simply fill up and new ones get dug? Or was there a more organized system for clearing them out? The latter seems likely. The contents of the latrine pit, once decomposed, would become night soil, a potent fertilizer. It's highly probable that this material was periodically dug out and spread on the fields to enrich the soil. It's the perfect closed-loop system of recycling, turning human waste into a valuable agricultural resource. It's a starkly practical approach that modern societies, with their complex and water-intensive sewage systems, have moved away from. A quirky and rather clever tidbit of latrine technology comes from Oseberg, Norway, where a Viking ship burial included a surprisingly elegant wooden toilet seat, clearly designed for a high-status individual to use while on board the vessel. It suggests that even while at sea, a sense of comfort and civilized practice was maintained. Imagine being a queen on a long voyage. You'd want something better than just leaning over the side. You finish your business, your brief excursion into the cold night a success. You return to the warmth and smoky comfort of the longhouse, leaving the well-managed world of waste behind. The existence of these dedicated latrines, and the systematic approach to dealing with waste is a powerful argument against the dirty Viking trope. It shows a clear understanding of sanitation and a collective effort to maintain a healthy, living environment. It might not be pretty, but it was a system that worked, protecting the community from disease and turning a potential hazard into a useful commodity. It was hygiene on a community-wide scale, just as important as the personal rituals you perform each morning. The new day dawns, and while it isn't Laugardygr, another major cleaning task looms, one that requires immense physical effort and some rather harsh chemistry. It's laundry day. Your clean linen undertunic, the one you put on after your weekly bath, is already starting to lose its freshness. Life is a dirty business. You've sweated while working. You've gotten soot on your sleeve from tending the fire, and you've probably spilled a bit of stew on your front. Unlike your durable woolen overtunics and cloaks, which can be brushed and aired out, the linen garments worn next to the skin absorb all the sweat and grime and require regular, thorough washing. This is not a task for the faint of heart. There's no washing machine, no gentle detergent, not even a bottle of stain remover. There is only the river, a large wooden paddle, and a caustic substance that would make modern safety officers run for the hills. Lie. The process begins at the fire. You take the heaps of wood ash that have been carefully saved from the hearth and place them in a large cauldron of water. This mixture is boiled for a long time, a process that leaches the potassium hydroxide from the ashes, creating a powerful alkaline solution. This is lye water. It's a dangerously corrosive substance, capable of causing serious chemical burns if you're not careful. You handle it with the utmost respect. This potent, brownish liquid is your primary cleaning agent. It's incredibly effective at breaking down fats, oils, and grease, which is exactly what you need to get the filth out of your clothes. With your bucket of lye water and a massive bundle of soiled linen, you head down to the designated washing spot. This is usually a smooth, flat rock by the river or a sturdy wooden platform built out over the water. It's a communal workplace, and you're soon joined by several other women and thralls from the household, all with the same goal. It's a social occasion, a chance to catch up on the latest news and gossip while engaging in back-breaking labor. The rhythmic thwack of wood on wet fabric will soon become the dominant sound. You kneel by the water's edge, the cold river water numbing. Your knees. You take the first garment, a grimy undertunic, and submerge it in the river to get it thoroughly soaked. Then, you lay it out on the flat rock. You carefully pour some of the lye solution onto the fabric, especially on the dirtiest parts, the collar, the underarms. You let it sit for a moment to work its chemical magic dot, then comes the physical part. You pick up your weapon for this battle. A wooden laundry paddle, sometimes called a beetle or bat. It's a heavy, flat-bladed club. You begin to beat the wet, lye-soaked garment systematically. Thwack, thwack, Thwack. The sound echoes across. The water. This isn't a gentle process. You are literally beating the dirt out of the fabric, the force of the blows driving the lye and water through the fibers to dislodge the grime. It's a full-body workout. Your arms and back will ache by the end of the day. After a thorough beating, you rinse the garment in the flowing river water, watching as clouds of dirt and brownish lye wash away downstream. You examine the fabric. If it's still dirty, you repeat the process. Lye, beat, rinse. Lye, beat, rinse. Over and over. It's monotonous, strenuous work. A mainstream historical fact is the sheer importance of linen, made from the flax plant, in the Viking Age. While wool was essential for warmth, linen was the primary material for clothing worn next to the skin, because it was more comfortable and absorbent. Producing it, from planting the flax to spinning, weaving, and sewing, was an incredibly labor-intensive process, primarily done by women. To then subject this hard-won fabric to such a violent cleaning process shows just how important cleanliness was. You wouldn't risk destroying a valuable garment unless getting it clean was a top priority. Historians still argue about the exact composition of Viking soap. While lye from wood ash was certainly the primary component for tough laundry, were there other ingredients added to create a more solid, transportable soap bar for general use? The soap-like substances found archaeologically are often amorphous, making it difficult to reverse engineer the recipe. Some finds suggest a soap made from animal tallow and ash, which would create a solid but very harsh bar soap. Remember the stuff you avoided using on your face this morning? This was likely the kind of soap used for scouring wool or for particularly stubborn laundry stains, rather than for personal bathing. Once a garment is finally, blessedly clean, you wring it out as best you can, your hands and wrists aching from the effort. Now you have to dry it. There are no clothes dryers, and on a cloudy day, no strong sun. The most common method is to lay the wet clothes out over bushes or on a grassy bank, letting the wind and air do the work. If the weather is bad, you'll have to string them up inside the longhouse, adding a damp, laundry scent to the already complex aromatic profile of the home. A quirky and useful tidbit of laundry lore involves the use of urine. Yes, urine. Stale. Urine, left to sit for a while, breaks down into ammonia, another powerful cleaning agent. While lye was great for plant-based fibers like linen, ammonia was particularly effective for cleaning and softening animal fibers like wool. It was also used as a mordant to help dyes fix to the fabric. So a bucket for collecting urine might be another strange but essential part of your household cleaning arsenal. It's a startling thought, washing your clothes in pee, but it's a perfect example of using every available resource in a pre-industrial world. By the end of the day, you are exhausted. Your hands are raw, your back aches, but you have a pile of clean, damp linen. You carry it back to the longhouse, the fabric smelling of lye, river water, and the fresh air. It's a smell of hard work and deep clean. You've maintained the barrier of cleanliness between your skin and the world for another week, a crucial task in the constant, unglamorous, but vital cycle of Viking hygiene. Your grooming routines are, for the most part, about personal comfort, health, and maintaining your social standing within your own community. They are acts of order in a life that can be chaotic. But there is another time, another context, when grooming takes on a much sharper, more aggressive edge. This is when you prepare for battle, for a raid. In this arena, hygiene and appearance are not just about being clean. They are about psychological warfare. They are tools to be honed and weaponized, just like your axe and shield. The night before a raid, the atmosphere in the longhouse is different. The usual domestic hum is replaced by a focused, tense energy. Men are checking their weapons, sharpening blades, and mending leather straps, and they are grooming. This isn't the relaxed, meditative combing of a normal morning. This is a deliberate, almost ritualistic preparation for violence. You watch as a warrior sits by the fire, his movements precise. He is not just combing his long hair and beard. He is styling them for maximum impact. He might choose the Danes. Cut, you've seen before the back and sides of his head, shaved ruthlessly short, leaving the long hair on top to be plaited into tight, complex braids. This is practical, yes, keeping his hair from his eyes and from an enemy's grasp. But it is also visually shocking. The contrast between the shorn scalp and the elaborate braids creates a look of disciplined ferocity. It says, I am not a farmer. Today, I am a predator. The braids themselves might be interwoven with brightly colored strips of cloth or leather, a flash of defiant color against the grim business to come. Some warriors affix small metal rings or beads to the ends of their beard braids, adding a subtle weight and a menacing jingle to their movements. Every detail is calculated to build an image. And there's the kohl. Remember the subtle, beauty-enhancing line you might wear for a feast? Now it is applied with a heavier hand. A thick, dark line is drawn around the eyes, not to enhance beauty, but to create a stark, intimidating gaze. It makes the eyes look sunken and intense, like a wolf's. When you stare down your opponent from across a shield wall, you want your gaze to be the last thing they remember. It's a form of nonverbal threat, a promise of violence. A mainstream historical fact supporting this is, once again, the foreign accounts of the Vikings. While they were often described as terrifying heathens, they were rarely described as slovenly. The same English and Frankish chroniclers, who bemoaned their violence also, sometimes grudgingly, noted their attention to appearance. The combination of being well-groomed and brutally violent was particularly unnerving to their victims. It suggested that this was not the chaotic rage of wild animals, but the organized, deliberate violence of a disciplined and self-respecting people, which was somehow even more frightening. They weren't just savages. They were savages who combed their hair. Historians still argue about the extent of ritualistic body painting before a battle, while the lurid image of Vikings covered head to toe in blue woad is likely a conflation. With Celtic or Pictish practices, it's plausible that some form of temporary marking was used. Soot, charcoal, and red ochre, a natural clay pigment, were readily available. You might see a warrior smear a black line across his cheeks and nose, or draw a symbol of Thor's hammer on his forehead with red clay. Whether this was for magical protection, group identification, or pure intimidation is unclear. It was likely a combination of all three. You watch as a man dips his thumb in the hearth soot and draws a stark black sunburst on his shield. He then uses the same soot to darken his own eyebrows, making his scowl seem even more menacing. Even the act of being clean was a form of intimidation. Arriving on a foreign shore after a long sea voyage, looking not like starved, filthy castaways, but as well-kempt, organized warriors with styled hair and clean clothes, was a powerful psychological statement. It said, "We crossed the unforgiving sea, and it did not break us. We are strong, we are organized, and we have come for what is yours." It defied expectations. A quirky but potent example of this psychological grooming is found in the behavior. of the legendary Vikings, a semi-legendary order of elite mercenary warriors. According to their saga, they had a strict code of conduct which included rules about personal bravery and implicitly their presentation. They were the special forces of their day, and their appearance had to match their fearsome reputation. A Viking was expected to be impeccably turned out, even in the face of death. One famous story tells of a captured Viking who, when about to be beheaded, asks the executioner to make sure his long, beautiful hair is held out of the way, so it isn't dirtied with blood. He wanted to die looking his best. It's a dramatic tale, likely exaggerated, but it perfectly encapsulates the ideal of maintaining one's composure and appearance, even in the most extreme circumstances. You feel the shift in the air. The men around you are transforming themselves. They are shedding their domestic skins and donning the personas of warriors. Their grooming is a key part of this transformation. It's a mask, a uniform, and a weapon. The sharp part in a man's hair, the precise trim of his beard, the dark kohl around his eyes, these are not signs of vanity. They are signals of intent. They are the quiet, meticulous preparations for the loud, brutal chaos of combat. Tomorrow, these clean, well-groomed men will become the terrifying Vikings of legend, and their appearance, so carefully crafted tonight, will be a key part of their fearsome arsenal. You've washed, combed, bathed, and even prepared for battle. You understand the tools, the rituals, and the social importance of Viking grooming. But a fundamental question remains, one that cuts through all the details of combs and kohl. After all this effort, what do you actually smell like? The scent of a person is one of the most primal and evocative sensory details, yet it's the hardest to reconstruct from history. It's not a single simple answer. The true scent of a Viking is a complex tapestry of aromas, woven from their FOMO, environment, their diet, their hygiene practices, and their daily life. Let's start with the base layer, the scent of your home. You wake up every morning in the longhouse, and the first thing you breathe is smoke. The central fire, essential for warmth and cooking, is rarely vented perfectly. A low-hanging haze of wood smoke is a constant. This scent clings to everything. Your hair, your skin, your clothes. It's a permanent part of your personal aroma. It's not the clean, fragrant smoke of a cedar campfire. It's the thick, greasy smoke from burning whatever wood is available, mixed with the fumes of cooking fats and stew. So, your primary scent is, undeniably, smoky. Next is the smell of your clothes. Remember the harsh lye and river water from laundry day? Your clean linen undertunic carries the faint, sharp, almost sterile scent of lye, overlaid with the green, earthy smell of the river. Your outer garments, made of heavy wool, are a different story. Wool is difficult to clean thoroughly and is worn for long periods. It has a remarkable ability to absorb and hold on to smells. It smells of wool itself, that slightly lanolin, animal scent, but also of smoke, dampness, and the accumulated odors of every place you've been. If you've been working with a livestock, it smells faintly of the barn. If you've been sailing, it carries the crisp, sharp tang of salt spray. Then there is the scent of your own body. You bathe on Lagerduger, and you might even enjoy good sweat in the bathhouse. This leaves you feeling clean, but you don't have modern antiperspirants or deodorants. As you go about your week, working hard, you will sweat. The natural smell of a human body, a musky, slightly salty scent, would be present. It wouldn't be considered offensive, as it would be in many modern cultures. It would simply be the normal smell of a living, breathing, working person. It's the scent of life, however. You do make efforts to smell good. Remember infusing fats with herbs and flowers to use as a moisturizer? The subtle scent of meadowsweet, yarrow, or lavender might be part of your personal aura, a deliberate choice to overlay the more ambient smells with something pleasant. You might tuck a small sachet of dried herbs into your clothes or wear a fragrant plant in your hair. After a meal, chewing on fennel or caraway seeds not only helps your digestion and freshens your breath, but also imparts a faint, spicy, anise-like scent. These are the small, personal touches that elevate your scent from merely not bad to intentionally pleasant. A mainstream historical fact that speaks directly to this is the extensive Viking trade in exotic spices and fragrances. At trading posts like Urka and Hidibi, archaeologists have found evidence of goods from the Far East, including resins like frankincense. While these were likely used primarily as incense for rituals or to freshen the air in the longhouse, it's not a stretch to imagine a wealthy jarl or his wife using a pinch of this precious, fragrant powder on their person for a special occasion. The scent of frankincense, balsamic, woody, and rich would be an unmistakable sign of wealth and worldliness. The scent of your hair would be particularly complex. After its weekly washing with something like soapwork, it would have a clean, green smell. But then it would immediately begin absorbing the longhouse smoke. You might smooth it with a beeswax-based pomade, adding a faint, sweet, honeyed note. If you've braided it with leather cords, it will pick up their earthy, tan scent. Your hair is a veritable scent sponge, a record of your week. Historians still argue about the overall sensory environment of a Viking settlement. Was it an overwhelming stench to our modern noses? Or would it have been a rich, if strong, tapestry of natural and domestic smells? The answer is likely both. Without modern sanitation, the smells of animal and human waste would certainly be present, though, as you know from your latrine system, they were managed and kept at a distance. The smells of trades, the tangy scent of the blacksmith's forge, the pungent smell of the tannery, the savory smell of the smokehouse, preserving. Fish would all mix in the air. A Viking town would not have smelled sterile. It would have smelled intensely of life, industry, and nature, all at once. One quirky but revealing detail about Viking scent preferences can be inferred from their burial practices. High-status graves sometimes include scent boxes, small, ornate containers holding fragrant materials. More commonly, the deceased were often buried with meadowsweet flowers. Chemical analysis of residues in beakers and drinking horns has also shown that mead and ale were often flavored with this flower. Meadowsweet has a strong, sweet, almond-like fragrance. This repeated use suggests it was a particularly beloved scent associated with celebration, honor, and perhaps the afterlife. So, the pleasant, sweet smell of meadowsweet might be one of the signature good smells of the Viking world. So, if you could bottle the true scent of a Viking, what would it be? It would be a complex perfume. The top notes would be the sharp, clean scents you intentionally apply. Herbs, flowers, maybe a hint of mint from your breath freshener. The middle notes would be the scents of your daily life, the lanolin of your wool cloak, the leather of your belt, the salt from the sea. And the base notes, the foundation of it all, would be the ever-present, inescapable, and strangely comforting scent of wood smoke. It's the perfume of a life lived close to the earth, close to the fire, and in constant dynamic motion. You stand in the common area of the longhouse, your hair neatly braided, your linen undertunic clean from the recent laundry day. A neighbor approaches and gives you a nod of respect. That nod isn't just for you as a person. It's an acknowledgement of the signals you are sending. Every aspect of your grooming, from the quality of your comb to the style of your beard, is a form of communication. In a society that is largely pre-literate, your appearance is your resume, your business card, and your social media profile, all rolled into one. It broadcasts your status, wealth, profession, and even your personal disposition to everyone you meet. Let's start with the most basic distinction, free or unfree. If you are a thrall, a slave, your appearance is dictated by your master and the endless drudgery of your work. You have little time or opportunity for personal grooming. Your hair is likely kept short, hacked off for pure practicality to keep it out of your eyes and to prevent lice. This short, unkempt haircut, known in some contexts as a thrall's crop, is an instant visual marker of your low status. You wear the coarsest, most basic clothes, often undyed wool, and you certainly don't own a personal grooming kit made of bronze. Your appearance signifies that your time is not your own. Now, look at yourself. As a free farmer, a carl, your grooming signifies your self-respect and your standing as a productive member of society. Your hair is long and well kept, a sign that you have the time and personal freedom to care for it. You own a sturdy comb made of bone or antler, a tool of a respectable individual. Your beard is trimmed or braided, a sign of masculine pride and order. Your clothes are clean and in good repair. You don't look ragged or neglected, because to do so would suggest you are lazy or have fallen on hard times, inviting disrespect, or worse, pity. Your entire presentation says, I am a person of substance. I run a household. I am to be taken seriously. Ascend the social ladder further, and the signals become more elaborate and expensive. A jarl, a chieftain, or a wealthy merchant doesn't just look clean, he looks magnificent. His hair and beard might be styled with even greater care, perhaps with those silver wires you've seen, glinting in the firelight. His grooming kit isn't just functional. It's a work of art. The tweezers, ear spoon, and nail cleaner might be cast in silver, intricately decorated with animal motifs, and hung from a beautiful silver chain. A mainstream historical fact is that such luxury grooming sets have been found in the richest Viking graves, confirming that these items were potent symbols of elite status. Possessing such an item says you have wealth derived from successful raids or prosperous trade. The materials of your clothing and adornments are also a clear giveaway. While you wear sturdy wool and linen, a high-status woman might wear a fine linen tunic, so sheer it's almost transparent. She might wear silk, an incredibly expensive material imported all the way from the Byzantine Empire or beyond. Its vibrant colors and smooth texture, a stark contrast to the homespun fabrics of the common folk. Her braids might be held with colorful silk ribbons. The brooches that fasten her dress are not simple bronze, but heavy, gilded silver, covered in fantastically complex designs. Her very presence radiates wealth and power, and her meticulous grooming is the foundation upon which that image is built. Historians still argue about whether certain hairstyles were codified markers of specific professions or allegiances. Instance, did the shore-nape Dane's cut exclusively signify a warrior, or could a farmer adopt it if he wished? Was a forked beard the sign of a man from a particular region? While there's no definitive handbook of Viking hairstyles, it's highly likely that regional and group-specific trends existed, much like they do today. Seeing a group of warriors, all with their hair and beards styled in a similar, distinctive way, would be a clear sign of their cohesion and shared identity as a warband. It's visual branding. A quirky but telling example of grooming as a social signal comes from the sagas. In the Laxdæla saga, the hero Jartan Olafsson is described as the best-looking man that has ever been born in Iceland. He travels to Norway and becomes a favorite at the king's court, partly because of his exceptional good looks and fine clothes. When he eventually returns to Iceland, he has adopted the latest courtly fashions and hairstyles. His appearance is so striking and so different from the local norms that it causes a stir, eventually contributing to a tragic love triangle. This story illustrates how grooming and fashion were not static. They were influenced by travel and contact with other cultures, and adopting a new look could be a way of signaling your worldliness and your connection to centers of power. So you see, the effort you put in this morning wasn't just for you. It was for your community. When you look at the Jarl, you see his power in the glint of silver in his beard. When you see a visiting merchant, you see his far-flung travels in the cut of his tunic and the fine metal of his grooming kit. When you see a neighboring farmer, you see his respectability in his neatly combed hair and clean hands. And when they look at you, they see the same. They see a proud, self-sufficient individual who contributes to the order and strength of the community. Your grooming is a silent, constant conversation, a language of status, identity, and belonging understood by all. It is the social fabric, made visible. You've spent your life within the rhythms of your own culture, where your standards of grooming are normal, a part of the daily and weekly routine. You know that a well-kept beard is a sign of honor, that lagerdigger is essential, and that a personal comb is a prized possession. But how does all this effort appear to outsiders? How are you perceived when your long ships land on a foreign shore, not just as a raider or a trader, but as a person? To truly understand the impact of your hygiene, you need to see yourself through the eyes of others, specifically through the eyes of the English. Imagine you are one of the Danish Vikings who has settled in the northern part of England, an area that would come to be known as the Danelaw. You are no longer just a temporary visitor. You are a neighbor. The local Anglo-Saxons watch you with a mixture of fear, resentment, and a strange, grudging curiosity. They expect you to be a monstrous, filthy barbarian. But what they see confuses them. They see you emerge from your dwelling in the morning, and, before you do anything else, head to a basin of water to wash your face and hands. They see you pull out your intricately carved comb of bone and antler, and spend a considerable amount of time working it through your long hair and beard, a ritual you perform every single day without fail. They watch on Saturday as your entire household engages in a flurry of activity around steaming tubs of water, a weekly bathing ritual that seems almost obsessively regular to them. An English chronicler, John of Wallingford, writing with more than a little exasperation, captures this sentiment perfectly. This is the mainstream historical fact you've heard before, but it's worth revisiting from his perspective. He complained that the Danes, because of their habits of combing their hair every day, of bathing every Saturday, and of changing their clothes frequently, were able to lay siege to the virtue of married women, and even seduce the daughters of nobles to be their mistresses. In his view, your cleanliness was not a virtue. It was a cunning and dangerous weapon of seduction. You weren't just clean. You were dangerously clean. Your meticulous grooming was undermining the moral fabric of English society. This is a profound reversal of the typical barbarian narrative. You, the invader, are setting a new standard for personal presentation, one that the local women apparently find very appealing. Imagine an Anglo-Saxon man, perhaps accustomed to washing less frequently, seeing his wife's head turn as you walk, by your hair gleaming, your beard neatly trimmed, and smelling not of stale sweat, but of wood smoke, wool, and maybe that faint, pleasant scent of the herbs you use. It would be infuriating. Your hygiene becomes a source of social friction, and, bizarrely, a competitive advantage in the game of love and attraction. You also bring your tools with you. The archaeological record of Viking Age York, Jorvik, and other Danelaw settlements is filled with the same grooming implements found back in Scandinavia: combs, tweezers, ear spoons. The local Anglo-Saxons had their own combs, of course, but the Viking-style composite combs, with their riveted construction and elaborate decorations, were often more complex and ornate. Owning and using such an object was another subtle display of a different, and perhaps more sophisticated, material culture. Historians still argue about the degree to which this clean Viking image was reality versus a convenient trope for chroniclers to explain their own people's perceived failings. Was English hygiene really so much worse? Or was it simply different? Perhaps the Anglo-Saxons valued other things more, or perhaps chroniclers like John of Wallingford were exaggerating to make a point about the perceived moral decay caused by foreign influence. The truth is likely somewhere in the middle. Your hygiene practices were a noticeable and distinct cultural trait that set you apart from the local population, and this difference was significant enough to be recorded time and again. A quirky but illuminating perspective comes from another source, an Arab diplomat, Ibn Fadlan, who encountered a group of Scandinavian Vikings known as the Russ on the Volga River. His account is famous for its graphic descriptions, and he was, to put it mildly, not impressed with some of their habits. He called them the filthiest of God's creatures, noting with disgust that they all shared a single bowl of water to wash their faces and blow their noses in each morning. This account is often cited as definitive proof that Vikings were dirty. But here's the crucial context. Ibn Fadlan came from the Islamic world, which had an incredibly sophisticated culture of hygiene centered on running water and ritual purification. Wudu, before prayer. To him, who washed in fresh, flowing water multiple times a day, the sight of a dozen men sharing a stagnant bowl of water would have been utterly revolting. However, from your perspective, this communal morning wash is still a daily ritual of cleaning. The very fact that they were washing at all, even in a way he found disgusting, is significant. His account, rather than proving you are dirty, actually confirms the existence of a daily washing ritual. It's a perfect example of how cleanliness is relative. To the Anglo-Saxons, you were a fastidious dandy. To Ibn Fadlan, you were a filthy animal. Your actual hygiene level was the same in both encounters. What changed was the cultural lens through which it was viewed. So as you walk through the market in Jorvik, you carry with you this complex reputation. You are feared for your axe, but perhaps admired for your comb. Your presence is a disruption, not just politically and militarily, but culturally and even romantically. Your simple, ingrained habits of personal care have become a source of foreign fascination, complaint, and allure. You are the clean invader, a walking paradox who smells of smoke and soap, and your greatest secret weapon might just be your weekly bath. The day is done. The final meal has been eaten. The tools have been put away, and a quietude settles over the longhouse, thick and heavy as the wool blankets on your sleeping platform. The great central fire has been banked for the night, its roaring flames tamed into a soft, hypnotic pulse of glowing red embers that cast long, dancing shadows on the walls. The air is still thick with smoke, but it feels different. Now less the smell of industry and cooking, more the scent of rest. This is the final chapter of the day, a time for one last, quiet set of rituals before surrendering to sleep. Your first and most important evening. Task is a mirror image of your first task of the morning. You reach for your comb. This time, the work is different. It's not about creating a sharp, public-facing style. It's about undoing. If you've worn your hair in tight braids all day, you carefully unplait them, your fingers working gently to release the woven strands. The feeling of your hair falling loose over your shoulders is a sigh of relief for your scalp. You then begin to comb, slowly and methodically. This isn't the vigorous detangling of the morning. It's a gentle, soothing pass through the hair, removing any stray bits of dust, leaves, or chaff that might have found their way there during the day's work. You comb your beard with the same calming slowness. It's a quiet, meditative act, a way of smoothing out the literal and figurative knots of the day. Preparing for the blank slate of sleep. Next, you tend to your skin one last time. You might not wash your face again, but you will moisturize. You reach for your little pot of herb-infused tallow. Your hands, which might be chapped from the cold or rough from work, get a generous coating. You rub a little on your cheeks and lips, a protective and healing balm to work its magic overnight while you sleep. The faint, familiar scent of the herbs and beeswax is comforting, a signal to your body that the day's exposures are over. Before you settle down, you might take a chew stick or a simple wooden pick and give your teeth a final cleaning, dislodging any remnants of the evening meal. It's a simple, practical act, the final step in closing down the business of the day. These small, personal acts are the legacy of your culture in microcosm. The comb you hold is the single most enduring symbol of this legacy. It is a profound historical fact that combs are the most common personal artifact found in Viking graves, present in the burials of men, women, and children, from the wealthiest chieftains to the most humble farmers, across every territory they touched. More than the sword or the axe, the comb was the universal accessory, the one thing you needed for this life and the next. Its constant presence in the archaeological record is the ultimate proof that this commitment to grooming was not a fad or a fiction, but a deeply embedded cultural value. And this legacy lives on in a way you can't possibly imagine. Your word for Saturday, Lagerdager, your sacred washing day, will survive for over a millennium, fossilized in the languages of your descendants. In Sweden, it will be Lardag. In Norway and Denmark, Lørdag. 1,000 years from now, people will utter a variation of this word every week, most without ever realizing they are paying tribute to your ancient ritual of the weekly bath. It is a direct, unbroken linguistic thread connecting their modern lives to your steamy tub. Historians still argue about the origins of this intense focus on hygiene. Was it a uniquely Norse development, born from your own cultural evolution? Or was it something you observed, adopted, and perfected after your travels brought you into contact with the sophisticated bathing cultures of the Byzantine Empire, or the meticulous cleanliness of the Islamic world you met through trade routes? Perhaps seeing their standards inspired you to elevate your own. The truth is likely a blend, a proud native tradition, amplified by foreign influence. You are now ready for rest. You slip under your heavy reindeer hide and thick wool blanket, the familiar weight a comfort in the dark. The day, with its cycles of cleaning, styling, and maintaining, is complete. From the first splash of cold water to this final, gentle comb-through, your entire day has been framed by these rituals. They are the actions that separate you from chaos, that define your status, that project your identity, and that, ultimately, keep you healthy and whole. You lie back on the wooden platform, feeling the satisfying peace of a day well lived and a body well tended, ready to drift into the smoky darkness of a Viking night. And so, as you settle into the furs on your sleeping platform, the world of the longhouse begins to soften and fade around the edges. The low, rhythmic breathing of your family, the soft sigh of a sleeping dog, and the final, quiet crackle of the embers weave themselves together into a gentle, lulling hum, a sound as old as family itself. Let the distinct, smoky scent that has followed you on this entire journey begin to dissolve, replaced by the clean and familiar air of your own quiet room. Allow the coarse texture of the wool and the rough-hewn wood to melt away, and feel instead the comforting softness of your own bed, your own pillow. Your journey back in time is now complete. You have walked a day in another's shoes, and tended to yourself with their hands and their tools, and now you can let it all go. There is nothing more to see, nothing more to learn tonight. There is only the gentle, welcoming quiet, and the slow, easy descent into your own peaceful rest. The story is over. The night is yours. Let your breathing slow, and your thoughts drift, and allow yourself to sink completely into the deep and tranquil sleep that you so richly deserve.